Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. It's 2 in the morning on the East Coast of the United States. I have no idea what time it is down and under, but it is time for Shiny Side Out with Dave and Mecky. So I hope you have your tinfoil hat all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mecky.
Hello and welcome to Shiny Side Out with Dave, who will join us later, and Mecky, live from the Sydney studios in Australia, if you didn't know. And if you didn't know that either, Revolution Radio does have a chat room. I'm in there right now, but because I'm by myself, I'm not chatting. So, once Dave comes on, we'll chat with you. So come in, if you can, into the chat room at freedomslips.com, and you can chat and even listen from there. So you don't need to open up another web browser for that. You can check out our website, shinysideout.net, for more information, and also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Now, there are heaps of ways to listen to this particular station. If you live in Kentucky, you can tune in to WZZR 101.3 FM. That's right, old-style broadcasting. It's awesome. If you're anywhere else in the entire world, you can listen via one of these apps. Revolution Radio, of course, TalkStream Live, TuneIn.com, Radio Tuner, and our very own Shiny Side Out app. So, no excuses. At home, if you own a Grace tabletop digital radio, you can listen to that. Or if you drive around in a GM motor vehicle with a receiver-enabled radio, you can listen to that as well. And these are all revolutions in radio. No longer are you bound to little crystal receiver set. Those times have passed. Great. Now, also available from the station is a CD of our last year's shows, not just ours, every host. So, anyone you like specifically, you can just order and own forever. Okay? The number to call in if you're in the United States of America is 347-688-2902. The number again is 347-688-2902. Or if you're on Skype, simply add Freedom Screen. One word, Freedom Screen. Now, Solaris had another great show. I just chatted with her very briefly before the show started with Christopher, I think. I don't want to misquote it, but talking about Montauk and so forth, specifically around the children that were consumed by those programs. And in fact, something that interests me as well very much, and Dave, of course, is the missing and disappearing people, which the number of disappearing persons seems to go up every year. The average, or the number that was last quoted to me for the United States alone, could be wrong, but that's the number I was given, is about 100,000 people go missing every year. And there's a little piece of news I'm going to share with you in a little while as well, around disappearances and the potential co-location of underground bases. But as I said, Dave is not with me at the moment. That's cool. He'll dial in a second. Oh, and there he is. So I will simply add him to the call. Let me see if I can get him. There we are. We're calling him now. That's good. So yeah. But as I said, today's show is going to be interesting, I think. Mr. Dunger.
Hi. How you doing?
Good stuff. Sorry, we finished the intro. I was just saying Solaris had a great show. They're talking about Montauk, specifically the missing children that were consumed by that program, how it interests us as well. And I was just going to ask you, what kind of week you've had, my friend?
Well, do you know what? The week has been extremely busy. Oh, my goodness. And the news that's coming out now, there's two things I want to mention as news, and I don't know if you've got plans to join in. One was the huge explosion, obviously in China.
Massive.
There was multiple, and now there's 85 dead so far, and it's I don't know if there's an end to this yet. There still hasn't been any disclosure about everything that's occurred, and some of that, that explosion looks like phosphorus or lithium. So the first thing that I thought it was lithium-ion batteries exploding.
It's possible.
Then that got me linked So for all those people who like numerology, and I know there's a few out there, one of those things that I thought of immediately for some reason that I can't explain why, I went to the cargo of MH370 with all the batteries. And then I thought to myself, well, what was in this storage yard? Was it military? Because they talked about it being chemicals and weapons and military initially. So my thoughts, and hear me out, put your tinfoil hat on, quite possibly it was the storage location for a secret technology being destroyed by the US. How's that for a conspiracy, huh?
Not entirely. I think, to be honest with you, I mean that's probably the least conspiratorial or the least far-fetched, if you think about it, right? Those kinds of operations and activities, security and intelligence agencies around the world, I think, carry out on a daily basis. This one may have just been extremely spectacular, very much in the public's eye, whereas you don't see most of the other operations clearly. But hey, that could very well be, mate. Absolutely. Now, sorry, we just had something from the chat room. Tranja, I mentioned missing people earlier, and it's about 100,000 a year.
Yep, 411.
Yep, and now, Tranja just mentioned that he saw somewhere, and I have to get to the bottom of this, of course, myself. Since 1970, there seem to be 36 million people missing, just in the US. No records of death and such, just simply missing. 36 million.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a lot, right? So now
maybe predators are here.
Hey, who knows? I mean, the thing is this: we do know that a lot is going on. Clearly, there are underground bases. It's stupid to say that there are no underground bases, but they exist. And I've seen some reports of people that have been there. Arizona Wilder is one, and this is very relevant specifically now that all these pedophilia accusations have come out specifically against the British government, and specifically the highest levels of government. The prime minister at the time, now dead, of course, was implicated in complicity, at the very least, in covering up the pedophile activities that were going on. Now, doesn't get much higher than that, and I don't think it's too far-fetched to argue that others were involved, potentially even reaching, in the UK specifically, into the royal family, because very close friends of the royal families, like Mountbatten, for example, were involved and implicated here. These were very close friends. Yeah. So David Icke, okay, you can say what you want about him, and I want him on the show, by the way. Looks like has been right, certainly in implicating the highest levels of power in Great Britain. And if it happens in Great Britain, I'll be honest with you,
it's probably everywhere else.
Sir, I think that is exactly right. Now, we have a few news items further from that, but I just want to quickly say this. This is show number 181, 180, and 100, Dave. And we are going to talk about the flat Earth after the news. Yeah! We are, and I've taken the approach of looking at it completely unbiased. Okay, completely unbiased. So we will present a few things to you, and a few tidbits here and there and items. Think about it for yourselves. But that's all I want to say about it for now. Let's talk some more news before we lose too many listeners.
But guess what the other thing was?
Go ahead.
Outside the explosion was the declaration by scientists around the world in full agreement, locked step, that the DNA results are in for, drum roll please, the octopus.
I saw that.
The octopus has now been declared by science as alien.
Yeah, most likely.
Most likely, yes. Thank you. Asterisk denotes most likely. Now, this has been, supposed, or how the road they got to was because there's 30,000 base pairs greater than a human. It has 8 prehensile limbs.
Mhm.
Its intelligence and problem solving is above any other creature other than humans,
Yes.
and that its DNA doesn't match the lineage of any other creature on the planet.
Yeah.
Now, hey,
go on.
wait a minute. Wait. No, it doesn't match any other creature. That's something else.
Mhm.
So if you, it could have it could have ridden on a meteor or a comet, frozen maybe. One thing that puzzles me, Mackie, and that is in the historical record, there are issues with the DNA when you go back, and you can see the family trees or the tree of evolution. Now, I'm a proponent for evolution, as in the slow changing of a species, because that happens. It's natural. It's going to change in one direction or another. So I believe in evolution. However, I believe in the interventionism as well, alongside that at certain points, right? But our DNA is tracked back to a certain intervention or incident where the chromosome, the count, changed. Now, this creature, the octopus, doesn't have any point at which it's connected to any other creature. Meki?
Interesting. Now, think about this way as well, right? I mean, the octopus seems to have other qualities as well. Now, you said, its intelligence, got, problem-solving skills and all that. Now, you put it into a jar, it opens the jar from the inside and gets out, right? That's how clever these things are. It seems to have some kind of precog ability as well. I remember there was this famous, this was just, I think, the last World Cup.
That's right.
There was
I forget the name of the octopus.
Me too, but
Yeah.
it picked all the winners for, I think, for 5 or 6 in a row, right, of each match, which is statistically speaking almost impossible, right? Considering all the different permutations that could have occurred during the games. But anyway, so I think, and I've always felt that way. And I remember this very clearly. I was in the Singapore aquarium many years ago, and we went to the tank which held the octopi, as it were, and I put my hand. Yeah, well, you can say that if you like. And I put my hand on the
Side of the
screen.
tank?
No, on
Screen.
the screen, like on the glass,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And the octopus swam up and meshed my hand.
Wow.
So we were
sentient.
right? So we were touching, if you will. My brother then did the same thing, and it did that for him as well. I'm not making this up. This happened. You could say, "Oh, this is just coincidence, mimicry, whatever." Well, you can, but I don't think so. You have to look at the size of the brain. The relative. In fact, not just relative. They are their manipulative organs. Their tentacles are much more sensitive and much more versatile than our opposable thumb. Okay, much more versatile, and they could make. In fact, they live in nests as well. They build structures underwater, right? And it would make sense for spacefaring. Let's say they're spacefaring, for argument's sake. They're here, they were left here, and they're lost colony, whatever. I'm just putting it out there. It would make sense for a spacefaring race that maybe came from the water, evolved in the water, to come to Earth. Because guess what? The Earth is largely covered by water. So it makes a lot more sense for aliens that come from a water world to come here than not. Okay, because we have such an abundance of both fresh and salt water. So this is really fascinating stuff. I have to say, this is something else entirely, Dave.
Yeah, completely. And that's the big news of the week. I think that they're starting. Have you noticed? Now we had that half alien hybrid guy dead. That's in the media. This is in the media. There's more of this. You know what? There's actually aliens on Earth, and this is instead of drip, drip, drip. I think someone's opened in American terms, the faucet.
Possibly.
And I think we're going to see more and more of this.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, look, I'd like to apologise to everyone else last week for our audio problems. We had a lot of problems replaying the interview. I've posted that now. So if you look up the Gerald Celente, Gerald Celente video, it's there on our YouTube channel. So yeah, check that out. We've also put graphs and everything did you like that, Mackie, the edit?
I do very much. It was the interview can now stand in its own right. I mean, we played it as part of the show.
That's right.
But now it's got very nice graphics. If you guys just wanted to listen to Gerald talking and have some visual stimulation as well, I highly recommend you looking at it. It's good for us if you do. So thank you.
So I put that together anyway. But I just think that there's something coming. I don't know what it is. I just got this feeling that there's more and more to be revealed. Oh, even though you think you're getting close to it, bam, there's more, and there's more again. Mm-hmm. The one thing that I watched this week was the fellow from what's his name again? I just ran in the door. See, and I haven't got all my preparations done. So the project, the Disclosure Project, the head of that, the doctor. Oh, what's his name? Someone in the chat room. Oh. Anyway, I watched a tremendous video of him on stage, and it's the Serious Disclosure Project. And I forget the fellow's name. I'm so sorry. Stephen Greer. Mm. So I watched an hour and a half of him on stage talking about the new technologies and the replacement of fossil fuels. It was an amazing thing, and the audience was alive, fever pitched, and sensation, and it was it was electric. Mm. So very nicely done, nicely worded. He's in a good spot. But one thing that he said, the take home was that the government has said no. So he found a guy that had made this machine that made power out of thin air, and he was American military, and they posted him in Afghanistan as soon as they found out he was going to be helping him.
That's like the old doctrine, you send your thorns in the side to the front and have them killed off conveniently if possible. That's an age-old tactic. But nothing new. Nothing new there.
No, there isn't anything new. No.
Having said that, there's some very interesting developments around the divergence of of our species. In fact, right? Mm-hmm. We've spoken about Homo floresiensis. We've spoken about Denisovan man. We've spoken about Neanderthal. Now it seems another discovery was made in a Siberian cave.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This is fairly recent. So the DNA analysis of the subject's genome detected traces of what is known as Denisovan, right? We've spoken about that, who are considered to be, the mysterious cousins of the Neanderthals. The alarming part is the fact that the genome also contains odd bits of DNA which seem to come from a completely unknown, unidentifiable group of people. Yes, the genome of a Neanderthal was also analyzed from the excavation, and the results suggest that interbreeding occurred among members of multiple ancient human-like groups in Europe and Asia more than 30,000 years ago, including an as yet unknown human ancestor from Asia. Now, I'm giving you some quotes here. What it begins to suggest is that we're looking at a Lord of the Rings type world, that there were many hominid populations. And this is coming from Mark Thomas, evolutionary geneticist at the University College in London. Boom. And now another one here. The best explanation is that the Denisovans interbred with an unidentified species and picked up some of the DNA. Denisovan harbor ancestry from an unknown archaic population unrelated to Neanderthals. David Reich of Harvard Medical School. Now,
wow.
I think we have to rewrite what we think the human evolutionary tree looks like, and I think we also have to rethink our ancient and prehistory. Clearly, there were different types of human populations. A lot of the stories that we hear, a lot of the legends, fairy tales, of the giants, the little people. Yeah, Homo floresiensis is real. We know that. Just a matter of time before we find incontrovertible evidence of the giants. Okay, and some people say that we already have, which is, of course, being ignored completely. What about little troll-like creatures? What about people with blue skin? What about people with really, really red skin, or really actually yellow skin or green skin or whatever, right? Point is, I think the human race, I'm not just talking about Homo sapiens sapiens now, but the human race at large was a lot more diverse until something happened, Dave.
Completely.
Some watershed event. Right?
Absolutely. And look, we know it included water.
Yes, that's exactly right. Right? No pun.
That's right. And you know what? I just came from a party, 21st.
Nice.
And I have to tell you that the people today, Meki, and these are my relatives who I think at least 2 years or 3 years ago would not have known about any of the topics that we talk about. However, all independently of each other, I mentioned telomeres.
Oh, yeah.
And my cousin said, "Oh yeah, that's the little things on the end of your DNA." And I talked about quantum theory. And another fellow who's been to university, he said, "Yeah." And I went, "Wow, that's really cool." And I talked about the Akashic record. I talked about dreams. Meki, you would have loved it.
Dude,
yeah.
Sounds like it, absolutely.
Yeah. And, not the existentialism.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, and not, it was done in such a way that we're all being contributive.
Wow.
And I just really liked it.
So it
And
was
I
not
can't believe
hostile at all, was it? I mean, it was
not
quite
at all.
right.
Everyone was being friendly to it, and they even talked about conspiracies and things like that. And the point was I was talking about Plato, and it shifted the comment that it shifted the conversation to, oh well, if you're going to believe that, you're going to believe in conspiracies. And I put my hand up in a circle, shyly and coyly, right? And they all had a bit of a laugh.
Yeah.
And then it came back around again to a very similar topic, and I just put my hand up again, not wanting to interject, but to say across it, "Yep, I'm there. I'm in that position." And they weren't afraid, Becky. This is the thing.
These are young folk, yeah?
Well, no, mixture of ages. Yeah.
Right.
So I was honestly astounded. Now, these same people years ago wouldn't have even thought about these things. And I think there's an awakening. It really is.
Wow. That's amazing.
So we're talking about, from 21 to 55.
Yeah. Well, look, it is heartening to hear that. My social field is somewhat shrunk since the arrival of my children, so it's mostly work. And so you can talk to some people about these things, clearly, not all and not most, I would say, at my place of work at least. And whenever I do go out, I try to listen in first before I say anything, because I'm curious what people think. I really want to know what's going on with the larger population. And if you may say too much too soon, and that's why you were shyly and coyly, you ostracize, marginalize yourself immediately, and
that's right.
Get a real conversation going. So I'm glad to hear that it went that well, my friend. That's brilliant.
And look, that's all I'm saying is that I think that Andy said, "I hope you're right, Dave," and I think that's in relation to people are waking up. I really do think they are. And I posted something this week on Facebook, and that is, if you think the government doesn't lie, you failed history. You would have definitely failed history if you don't think the government's lie. And wouldn't you, Becky?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And a lot of my friends posted in reply to that, and they said, "Well, you know what? You're right. Wow, I never thought of it that way." And I think people are honestly doing it. I think they're waking up.
I think you're right. And again, in aid of our theory around the awareness cascade, there's a reason for that. And again, we could be completely off our rocker. Don't forget, this is the shiny side out. You have to wait in for that.
Putting my hand up again. I'm putting my hand up.
However, right, there's probably no mistake in you being born at this time. And let's not forget one thing here, right? So, as far as we know, in recorded history, as we understand it, population numbers and such, there have never been as many people alive throughout all of history as there are alive right now.
Mhm.
So what I mean by that is that talk. It probably goes to the turn of the 20th century. So up until the turn of the 20th century, there weren't 7 billion people alive on the planet, right? So from when it started from a population of very few to where we are now, right? So now right now more people are alive than combined throughout history. I believe that, if you talk about souls now, individual, and such, that's probably true. I think this is like 7 or 8 billion or whatever, like whatever the Fibonacci number is there, 7.76 actually. It is in fact how many of us there are. Okay, and I think once we hit that, I don't know if there's going to be new souls, or maybe I don't know how the whole thing works, but maybe at that point there'll be either be an awareness cascade, or they'll chop us down to start yet again and see if we can reach it. But make no mistake, this is a very critical point in time, a very critical point in history, a very critical point for every individual on the planet. And you know what, Dave? You had a great experience. I have poor ones for the most part. I do, and this is my fault because my expectations are very high, and I've got certain. I believe common sense should truly be common sense. Like, you shouldn't. If your worldview doesn't align with common sense, then you have to change it. This is my thing, but most people don't, and that really upsets me. And I see a lot of people every day that. I just despair, and I think, God, I mean, well, I'm not really religious, but I say that, right? So it's like an exclamation. How is it that we even made it this far? I mean, how did we get I look around me and I see these. It's just, I mean, I'm despairing. Having said that, I still have hope, right? I still have hope that things could get better.
Meki, I've been to dinner parties at your place, and I say dinner parties, everyone. That's a bunch of friends. We all know each other. And of course, the conversation, because Meki and I are in the room, are going to trend in a particular direction. And they do, and people ask questions, and normally they switch off. We're like TV. They like it while we're there, and on the way home in the car, they go, gee, those guys talk about some stuff, don't they? And that's the last conversation they have about it, normally. But it's good that people ask questions. I like that they ask questions, and that's when Meki and I are on. So we're switched on, like we're on the show, and we're talking about this stuff. But it's when the people are talking about it on their own. And I really like that. My friends at work don't quite share the same, they're workmates. They don't share the same kind of thoughts and processes that I do. I know that when they throw the question to me at the lunch table, that they're more inclined just to hear the crazy Dave answer, because they've already pre-formulated their opinion on it based on the media. But you know what? There's people within the workforce that have said, you know what? I heard, Dave, that you've got a radio show. I listened to it, and I agree with you. You're right. And then they rattle off some topics. I agree with those topics too. Yes, the governments lie. Yes, there's something about NASA that doesn't quite gel. Yes, they think there's a secret space program. All these things that the media isn't quite so forthcoming on. And of course, that's their own, media circus that controls that. Yeah, their own minders. But I like that they come up to me independently, outside of their group. I understand how group dynamics is, and they don't want to be isolated from the group. That's fine. But that means they're in their own time. They're at home watching YouTube videos of the same stuff. They're doing their own research. And I said, well, you know what? Just go to our website. The show notes are there. You can read through them. Oh, really? Yeah, it is.
And just a little plug. It has become a very good research tool, guys. Use it.
Yeah, do it honestly. So, so Meki, just an extraordinary week. Yeah,
and that's brilliant. That's fantastic. Now my week was somewhat muted. I was not well. I was actually hallucinating on Sunday night.
Wow.
Yeah. It got so bad. I felt like I was burning up. So my wife and I myself as well measured my temperature. And we've got these newfangled gadgets for the babies, to get the temperature, like with infrared and whatever. So it's very accurate. No fever, normal temperature, but my head felt like it was burning up.
Wow.
And I had my back was in agony, like it was like the flu pain, and my arms and my legs were in pain. I couldn't really sleep, and I had these amazing hallucinations where it's two worlds. They're sort of flipped inside out. One is sort of a very like it actually hurt my brain. Just trying to grasp what my
Maybe
brain.
you're getting a download.
Maybe I don't know, but it looked like it was some form of food poisoning, guys. So all I can say to you, well, I can't put specific blame on a specific food. I believe that you shouldn't leave sashimi on the table for longer than 2 hours. You should eat it much quicker than that. But yeah, so I was not well for a number of days. Lost 5 kilos in the process.
Whoa.
Yeah, which I haven't put back on yet, which is good. Maybe I can lose some more, but we all need to
Just do it again.
Do it again.
Not do this at home, by the way.
That's exactly right. But yeah, but having said that, I still had a great week, of course. Trying to do much of the research here, and Dave and I had spent a lot of time thinking about the flat Earth. I don't want to go into that quite yet. I can tell you one thing though, I did my head in, but we'll talk about it in a second. There's one more piece of go on, yeah.
I was just going to say to Solaris, who's listening, I know she's listening. Great show, by the way. I'd like Solaris to tell us whether what Meki might have experienced was some kind of psychotronic programming.
Is that possible?
Quite possibly, yeah.
I mean, I was really off my rocker. I can tell you that. It was very, very strange, and I couldn't sleep the entire night. And the after effects. You know when the after effects finally left me? I went to the gym, and this was yesterday. So yesterday I went for a run at the gym and a bit of weightlifting, but I sweat a lot. I was sweating, right? And that's the first time I felt completely cleansed. Like
wow.
I don't know why, but yeah. So I'm feeling 100% better today. So Solaris, yeah. If you think that's possible, because it was two realities sort of clashing. So one was inverted to the other, and it was flat somehow, and I couldn't really see it. So if you look at an object and it was inverted and became part of the other reality, you could no longer look at it properly.
I understand.
That's the best I can describe it. It was. I don't actually have the words to fully describe what I saw.
Well, Meki, just to look, I'm not playing it down, but that's extraordinary. Just pause there for a sec. I just remembered last night. Mm-hmm. I was watching with a family movie with my family, and I got up and I sat down again, and from where my house is, from across the valley, you could probably see into my lounge room across the valley, like about a mile or a bit more. And Belinda said, "Look at the laser." And there was a laser on the wall. When I bent down to get back on the lounge to be hidden behind the lounge, a laser was seen on the wall, and the only point of origin is across the valley a mile away.
Wow.
I just want to put it out to you, whoever you are, we could see the laser.
You're kidding?
I'm not kidding, and it happened more than once.
Wow.
During the movie. And it was on the wall behind the TV, and there's no other source of light. And so we're not near any street lights. You can't actually see into our house unless you're across the valley. So, yeah, wow, obviously, maybe someone was listening with those, the laser listening devices.
Yeah.
Or I just said to Belinda, I made a joke if I said, "Oh, that's a sniper. Don't worry about that."
Yes, that helps, right? That puts you at ease.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Oh,
so I started darting backwards and forwards, zigzag.
Yeah. Like Commander roll. You're not getting me. Sorry, but there's one more piece of. Having said that, this is actually illegal, guys. So if you're listening now and you point your laser in Dave's house, it's illegal. You can actually you can damage someone's cornea. With the
That's
laser.
Right. Well, this was a high-powered laser if it's coming from a mile away.
Oh, clearly, right? And it has to come on a straight
line.
Line.
Was no spread on this thing.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So guys, just don't. All right.
If you're a sniper, just come around and knock on the door.
Yeah, much quicker.
You know where I live. Yeah, just
clearly
give you a cup of coffee.
Yeah,
sit down. Yeah. Chat about it for a while.
It's funny. Actually, that reminds me of. Sorry, I have to transgress, but I have this flash. There's a show that was called Rome. A fantastic show. You should watch it if you can. Depicting the life in ancient Rome. And this one guy, one of the main protagonists of the show, was sent to kill Cicero. The Cicero of the history books. And so he does. He goes to his country estate, and he's Cicero is there expecting him, I guess, and he's getting ready to be killed. And then the assassin says, "Oh, do you mind if I take some of your peaches?" I'm not a thief. and it seems so incongruous. But then you think, yeah, well, I guess there is that kind of professional ethic, right? If someone is going to, it's a killer, they're not necessarily a thief. So Cicero goes, yeah, of course, take some peaches. So he takes the peaches, proceeds to kill Cicero, and goes to a picnic with his family afterwards. This is quite surreal, but interesting, and that's what makes the show believable, because it's such a different take on what
the
reality.
detachment that they have. It's a job. They're doing the job.
Exactly.
But he still had ethics, and I think that's an extraordinary thing. Look, that same thing could be said about what's his name, that half-ear guy from Australian prisons.
You mean Chopper Reed.
Chopper Reed.
Yes.
If you want to read a book and you're not afraid, you're not afraid of finding out what it's like in the dark part of society, you should read that.
Yeah.
He was like the nightingale of the bad people, killing bad people, even worse people, I should say.
Yeah.
And he went to prison. He did his time, and he's come out and he's written a book about it.
There's a movie as well.
There is a movie, Chopper Reed. Yeah, you should see that.
Yeah.
That doesn't glorify it so much as it's maybe it turns the violence down a little bit on what really happened, but and it gives you more of a point to him. But if you read the book, I think you'll get more of a picture. He talks about it in such a way as other people reminisce about that funny time when the photocopier broke down.
Yeah, that's exactly.
So yeah, I get it. I really do get it.
You're right. It's a completely different mindset, and it's but do if you get the chance to read the book or see the movie, please do. Now there's another piece of news I want to share with you guys.
What is it?
This is fascinating, right? So this is brainwave tracking. Brainwave tracking, right? So
I like this one.
We've heard about data mining, right? Big data. So what that means is there's a whole bunch of information in the world, and the big game now is to somehow make sense of it and turn it into something useful. So like predictive behavior, predictive this, predictive that. The police actually have programs in place that are working. It's like pre-crime, where they look at certain areas, from footage, CCTV footage, and they're trying to predict where crime is likely to occur to prevent it, right? So that's actually happening. So, but this is about brainwaves, guys. This is brainwaves. So we're heading in that direction, right? So it's becoming increasingly more common, the brainwave tracking in the consumer market. And with the gaming industry at the forefront of the trend. Neurogames use brain-computer interfaces and EEG gadgets like the emotive headset to read brain signals and map them to in-game actions. Okay, so basically that gives you the player, virtual psychic superpowers. Not really, but sort of, right? Now, but how do you protect yourself from being hacked, or your raw thoughts for that matter?
Tinfoil hat, people.
Yeah. Now, this concern was actually raised at the 2014 Eurogaming conference in San Francisco.
There's a Neurogaming conference?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Now, there's Arek Stopinski, who's a neuroinformatics researcher at MIT, and this is what he said. We may wake up in a few years and say, oh, we should have done something. We should have thought about the privacy of this data. Now, this is also, he goes on to say, it's possible to glean private information like PIN numbers, credit cards, addresses, and birthdays leaked from brain signals.
Exactly.
EEG data is extremely rich or high-dimensional, meaning a single signal can reveal a lot of information about you if you know how to read it, right? If you have mental illnesses, are prone to addiction, your emotions, mood, tastes, blah, blah, blah. Raw brainwave data uploaded to a server for gaming purposes could also be tapped to get a detailed readout of your psyche.
Uploaded?
Yeah, it's possible to glean private information like PIN numbers and so forth from brain signals, as researchers demonstrated in a 2013 paper on the privacy and security implications of brain-controlled consumer products. I'm going to put the link here in the chat.
They demonstrated it.
Yes, absolutely. Oh. Now, and unlike Facebook, EEG data is a unique biometric identifier, like your iris, even more so than a fingerprint. Researchers have demonstrated they can identify people based on their EEG data with an 80 to 100% accuracy. Now, the greatest potential danger when it comes to brainwave data privacy, Stropinski argues, is the possibility of linking EEG databases to other databases with information about finances or location. And this is what he says. If we don't do something about it or start talking about it, we will end up with this big data set of personal EEG data that no one will have proper control over. Now, let's just say the NSA beginning collecting, they began to collect brain data.
They could begin.
Yeah, exactly, right? They could.
I'm holding my smartphone up. Maybe it's already doing it.
Maybe it is. They could theoretically match it with other databases or data sets culled from online mining to create a complete this would be the most complete profile, right? Now think about that. Now this is forget about metadata, and they're arguing here in Australia in the Parliament metadata. Who cares?
They don't even know what it is. They're arguing about it. They don't even know what it is.
Yeah. However, in a recent paper, Stupinski and several of his colleagues outlined a security protocol for EEG data called OpenPDS. The system marries two technologies: a smartphone app that reads EEG data and a generic data storage system that only releases the answers to specific queries asked by programs and services, not the raw data itself. So before you fire up Neurogame, be sure that you know where your data is going, guys.
No one's going to buy them now. Guess what, Mickey? Guess what? I've seen a demonstration of, not personally, but it was a taped video of extracting images from someone who was remembering something.
Wow.
And it was pixelated. Initially, of course, it was heavily pixelated. But over the last 5 years, they've done a lot of work, and it's pretty close to if you over zoom on an image, just enough to get it pixelated, that's pretty much what they got now.
Okay.
Oh, that's what they're showing us they've got, of course.
Yeah.
And if you add this, and think about what NFC is, near field contact.
Yes.
You've got NFC now in your phones. Thinking about near field contact, they're probably already recording it.
Look, I wouldn't be at all surprised. Like I said, and we always say this as well. What we are given as the truth is probably 4, 5, 6, 10 generations behind what it actually is. Military hardware. I don't care. Whatever it might be. Any capability. We are way behind in the public sector.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's just how it is.
Now remember, I gave an example of that. The CPU in my last phone was equal to the CPU that was in processing in MIPS. Okay, that's million instructions per second. The quad core that I had was already available 30 years ago in the military in their F-16 fighter jet.
There you go.
And it's only now a product that you can have in the consumer market. Mm-hmm. So thinking about the difference, then we had a 486 DX100 as the consumer market, except the military had quad core, 3 gigahertz machines. Mm-hmm. So just thinking about what they've got now, if you times the same ratio, I just can't. My brain can't even calculate it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What they'd have.
Oh, but the thing is that we're talking about quantum computing now, and in fact,
sentient.
Yeah, another interesting piece of news which found actually 2 pieces or 3. Let's call them 3, but
3
pieces of news. But one was around a very large structure in the universe, which is 5 billion light years across, and this was recently shared with us. Which is, it's about 50,000 times bigger than the Milky Way, and which completely changes our models or our the model that we have for the universe or whatever happens is now completely wrong, because the limit there, I think, was 2 billion light years at a max, right? So we have to change our thinking.
So what is this thing?
It's a stars. It's essentially a ring of 9 gamma ray bursts inside galaxies that together measure 5 billion light years across, right? Now, a GRB, which is the gamma ray burst, is an intense flash of gamma rays caused by a supernova, the dramatic death of a fiery star, and thus the detection indicates the presence of a galaxy, suggesting all 9 of the gamma ray bursts are in separate galaxies. They are the brightest electromagnetic events in the universe, releasing more energy in a few seconds than the sun in its entire 10 billion year lifetime. Okay, and thus they can be used to detect distant galaxies. While it is not one physical whole structure, the Hungarian-American team who made the discovery think the 9 galaxies are gravitationally bound to each other.
Wow!
Just as our local group contains the Milky Way and a few other dozen galaxies, so it's like a cluster of galaxies, right? But like I said, they're like 5 billion light years across. And we thought that with our current understanding, the theoretical limit actually stands at 1.2 billion light years, right? So on a large scale, the cosmos should be uniform and should not have structures like this, right? So 1.2, this is a factor of 4, by which it's larger. So our models have, and the point I'm making is that this is new knowledge, and now our old knowledge has to be revised. But maybe someone else was already aware of this, and the models that they use to describe the universe are much more advanced than what we do, and that's why there's a secret space program. That's why they have better chips. That's why they have VR already. I mean, who knows what they have? It's completely mind-boggling.
All right. Well, I've got something else for you, Maggie. How's this one? So this week I was watching a documentary on the experimentation of causality in the quantum physics field. Now, to cut a long story short, the causality experiment, and causality is clearly an understanding that if you do something, there's cause and effect. And what they were trying to do in quantum theory is disprove or prove, depending on which way the outcome goes, that the GFS, or grandfather, father, son paradox, is irrelevant because everything's already predetermined, i.e. the Einstein block time theory, that everything's already done. And it just depends on where you are in the time, in the block of time from the beginning of the universe to the end of the universe, and how you cut a line through it. It's complicated. Check it out. Block theory. All right. So what they want to do, they've found the darkest part of the entire universe, and they're going to shine a laser into it.
Okay.
Now, it's currently dark. There's currently no photons in it at all. So if they were to shine light into it and suddenly there's photons, it means that there were always going to be photons, which means there's causality. However, they're assuming that they're not going to find causality, and that if they shine a laser into a piece of completely black piece of space, where i.e. no photons are, and there aren't any photons as a result, then causality is irrelevant. Because it never had, they didn't have them, it can never have them. Shining it into there won't go into it because there aren't any, we haven't seen any. Does it? I hope that makes sense. It makes sense in my head because I'm explaining what their experiment is all about. I think that's one of the best causality experiments ever. So if they detect the laser actually penetrating it, then in fact causality is real. It's cause and effect. However, the quantum world, if they don't find the laser is actually in there at all, but despite shining it into it, then it was never meant to be in the first place. It's changed the experiment backwards in time for it to never get there. I love that.
That's interesting, man.
It really is. And look, these are from the greatest minds on the planet that are talking about this. And so, look, if we can sniff around the edge and be like mice eating little crumbs and understanding why they're going down this path. And this all started, Mickey, from the CERN. From then cranking CERN up. Yep. Because I've been watching so many videos from insiders talking about CERN being the gateway. Like it was actually an invention given to us like the movie Contact.
Yeah. So
they built it, and they had to build it underground because it was going to open up a gateway. And the only way to get to that and not have it exposed to, the atmosphere was to put it underground. And so whatever the results were going to be, they were going to be contained.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually. That makes because plus you don't know what's going to happen, right?
I've spent billions of dollars.
Absolutely.
Who's that benefactor?
Yeah, well,
who's willing to throw billions of dollars onto just throwing particles against each other? Who cares, right?
Yeah, well, look, you're right. Unless there's a payoff, it's very unlikely that anybody would put any money into anything. I mean, we're living that's where we're living, right? This is our society. It's
a money go round.
Yeah, we no longer pursue knowledge for the sake of knowledge. We're always looking for the bottom dollar, right? And if a field of research doesn't pan out, doesn't pay off, guess what? It's going to be discontinued. You're going to be out of tenure, right?
Exactly. If it has no payoff, it doesn't go down that road.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know. Yeah, completely.
So no, look, that's a valid point, sir.
So yeah, so it concerned me a lot, and I'm still concerned about CERN. I'm not going to think it's going to open up a black hole and consume the Earth or anything like that, but quite possibly, according to one of those physicists from a while ago, that if you was to rotate something very fast and travel through that rotation, then that's effectively a time tunnel.
Yep.
And that's where the concept from the time tunnel, the show, and everything came from, was the work from this one physicist. And now if they're rotating something in a tube around and around and around and around, that's effectively the same thing.
Yep.
It's like a Stargate, for instance.
Well, yeah.
Maybe the poor man's version.
And let's be clear here, right? Time travel, the way we understand it, is not impossible with this, even given the set of physics we're using at the moment, right? Not impossible at all. In fact, once we get a unified field theory, marrying quantum and relativity, we may have better understanding. But be very clear, mathematically, time, in fact, it can go this way or that way. It's completely irrelevant. Time is just a variable, right? And which way it goes is completely up to you. And time travel itself, like I said, and I keep saying it again, is not an impossibility. It is not.
That's true. In fact, in the quantum world, they've proved by experiment that it goes backwards and forwards. Things that have already happened.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or things that are yet to happen are able to affect before it happens.
Yes.
So that's proven.
Yes. Now think about
that
you
can go backwards. Yeah, we have. Join us. The water's great. But Meki, I joked today, we actually talked about time travel as well. What do we want? Time travel. When do we want it? That's irrelevant.
Exactly. That's completely correct. Because once invented, it's there.
It's always going to be there.
That's right.
I love that.
And it might be that it is there now. And in fact, the encounters we have with some of the unidentified objects may very well be dimensional or time travelers. And then you have to ask yourself, what kind of universe do we live in? Do we live on a single timeline? Is it predetermined, like maybe Einstein believed?
Predeterminism, yeah.
Yeah, in a block, yes, no, maybe. Is it a multiverse? Meaning, is it like leaves in a book? And when you travel back in time, you can actually never go home.
You never get to the same page.
Ever, right?
Because it changes, you see.
Exactly.
The GFS thing we talked about before, if you go back in time and change something, well, you don't exist.
Yep.
You shoot your grandfather, but that just changes the timeline you're on. It's like the new Mad Max movie. That was just a different timeline.
Yeah. So by that logic, and we're close to the station break, and then we're going to go to the flat Earth. So don't leave, stay for the flat Earth. But if you follow that logic, then everything that we have as a fiction, as a movie, as a thought construct, anything you can imagine, is possible, because there's no limitation as to how many different world lines there could be, how many different multiverses there could be, right? And everything, therefore, could very well be possible. So you're reading a book of fiction? No, this is actually what's happening somewhere right now. For example, right? So there's no such thing as imagination, really, because everything is real. Yeah, that's the consequence of the multiverse theory.
Meki, I'm just going to put this out there for a second. Think about this. Everything we've dreamt up, we've built, or we're trying to build. Everything we've... Think about that. Just think about that for a second, right? Everything we've dreamt about, we've made or are trying to make.
Yes.
Now, hang on. Shouldn't there be some things that we've dreamt about which is completely impossible, forget it's never going to happen?
You know what? I want to say no. I want to say no to
but
that.
Wouldn't you imagine that to be the case?
What do you think? You'd think so, right? Once again, let me put it this way. My favorite example of that kind of thinking is the train that can't go faster than 80 miles an hour.
That's right.
Can't happen.
You'll suffocate.
Air will be sucked out of the compartment. We all suffocate, right?
You can't go that fast. All the blood leaves you.
Can't be done.
Yep.
Oh, heavier than air flight is impossible. Clearly. Right, so I mean, buoyant gases, that, oh yeah, helium and such, that makes perfect sense. But a plane, in fact, these jumbo jets we have today, completely impossible. Yeah, clearly. Right? So
That's right. So this is what I'm saying, Mickey. It so far everything we've dreamt of, all the science fiction, everything's coming true. We're
Yes.
making it all.
yes.
Does that maybe we are in the Matrix
Um,
where it just everything is possible, where nothing
yes.
is impossible, and all we
Yes.
have to do is make it.
Yes, and that brings us back to the very fundamental building block of the theory, which is thought is the underlying structure which makes the quantum form possible. Oh, that's a mouthful.
Whoa.
So at the lowest common denominator, right, at the very, very lowest level of existence, our thought, our observing capability changes reality. We know it does. The observer effect is real. It's been tested, right, in the lab in the ancient ways, of empirical science. So it's a real thing. So if that's true, if the observer effect is real, then the intelligence, steering or controlling the observer is in fact responsible for reality, which is us, which is our thoughts. So
That's right.
So reality is indeed whatever you think it is. And because we are being controlled from cradle to grave in what we should and could and would want to think about, they control what reality is. And that's a fact. Okay, I mean, it sounds like hippie talk and new age, garbage. It's not. It is the basic building block of our reality. We determine what reality is. Okay, if there were no observer effect, if quantum physics didn't exist, I'd say, you're right. But it does, and it is. So it's entirely up to us as to what we want to have as a reality. It takes a lot to actually step into that mindset, right, Dave? It takes a lot to break
Right.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And we'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, That's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
On the go? Still want to listen? Don't have one of those fancy phones with too many buttons? Don't know what an app is? Or you don't even care? Well, we got you here at Revolution Radio. Now you can dial in 24/7 to listen to our shows. We have a number for Studio A and Studio B, and best of all, it's free. Don't forget, your carrier charges for your cell phone provider may apply, though, so check with your cell provider to make sure. So ready? Here you go. Get a pen. Here's the number. Studio A is 712-432-6958, and Studio B is 716-748-0112. Thank you very much for listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station in the world. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
You're back with Dave and Mecky Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com. That's right, as Hawk said, the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net. Since it is listener-funded radio, and if you like what you hear, not if you like, I know you do like it, otherwise you'd just turn the channel. Please go to freedomslips.com and push the donate button. It's on the site support page, or if you're in the chat, it's on the left-hand side. Please push it and donate. I know that this month is grossly down on average, so please, everyone, pull out a tenner and pop it into the station. That'd be awesome. Yep. I'm going to donate 10 by the end of the show, and I really am going to implore everyone to do that for me. Do it for me. Do it for Mecky. Do it for the show. Keep it alive. Thank you so much. Remember, we don't get paid. I'd like to say hello to all the new listeners out there, by the way. Thank you very much for subscribing, and comment below. And we're glad you're on board. Thanks to everyone on Twitter for republishing our stuff. Thank you, or retweeting, I should say. And for everyone hitting like. We like that too. We really like that you're on board with freedomslips.com, Revolution Radio. It's an awesome platform, and thank you to Nighthawk for allowing us to this for 181 shows.
100. That's a lot of shows.
Boy, I tell you, people say, like, oh, so how often do you do it? I said, well, we've done 180 shows. That was this week. Mm-hmm. But really? Well, was it weekly? Yeah, it's weekly. And then you see the doing the maths in the head. That's a lot. It's a lot.
That's more than 2 months, isn't it? Yes, that's correct. It's more than 2 months.
It's not daily, is it? No, it's not daily. No. How many listeners? Oh my goodness, it's hard to tell you how many there are.
Actually, we have no idea. So
yeah. Hi, Mum, if you're listening. So my late mother, she's in the nether listening right now. So I just want to say, look, we're halfway through. We're halfway through 181.
181.
And boy, it just keeps getting better and better.
It does. Oh,
Mecky, on the previous side of all of that, I think we just missed the point that you had at the end.
My point was that we are in charge of our reality, right? This is the point. The very smallest building block of this reality seems to be our thought, intention. Directed thought, not just random thoughts, daydreaming, whatever, directed thought, okay? Call it prayer or meditation, I don't care what you call it. The observer effect is real and all that. So I won't say any more just because I don't want to be kicked off the air. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Do you know, you'd be surprised how often that happens.
Yeah, no.
As soon as we start talking about something,
Yeah.
especially if we had a bit too sensitive material, bingo, we get slammed off air. So
Yeah, and that's why our archives got deleted, I guess, as well. But
Yeah.
be that as it may, we're gonna get them all back.
we'll just do the shows again. Good luck with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Mickey,
Well, yes.
today's show topic.
Okay, so first of all, tinfoil hat territory all the way through. Okay, in fact, I don't. It's not even tinfoil hat anymore. It's like it's a tungsten hat that you
Tungsten.
Okay.
Oh.
We had a lot of discussions around the flat Earth. The hijacker dialed in the other
week.
time,
Yep.
and started talking about the flat Earth. And I thought, well, we haven't really talked about it. We talked about hollow Earth, expanding Earth. We talked a whole bunch of different things about the Earth, Earth, moon mysteries, and all that stuff. We never really looked at the flat Earth. Frankly, we thought, why? What's the point? However, we did because clearly there's some people that very, very deeply believe in it, and so these are the thoughts that we have around the flat Earth. Either the flat Earth is the greatest conspiracy ever, and I mean, ever. Nothing comes even close. All conspiracies that exist outside of that don't even can't even tie the shoes of this one. so all governments, all space agencies, the US, China, Russia, India, European Space Agency, and so on and so forth, as well as all private astronomers, astrophysicists, and so forth, they are all of them working together to conceal the truth from us, right? That's happened, or it's wrong. So either it is that the greatest conspiracy ever, or it is wrong. So what we've done, we've put some points together that will hopefully help you in making up your own mind. In doing so, we did not consider evidence from NASA or any other space agency, because as soon as that happens, I've been to many forums.
Yeah, me too.
Many. You're immediately dismissed, and that's okay. Fine. So we're not including any of that information here. No pictures of no talk about probes or whatever.
And no NASA photography.
None of that. Okay. Just some, we think, common sense arguments. Okay. So make up your own mind what you think about it.
And we're not going to say everybody knows.
No.
We're not going to say
no.
Experts agree.
Yeah.
We're just going to put the facts out there.
Yeah. And we will ask questions. So in some points I'm confused, and Dave maybe as well. And we ask you, flat earthers, and this is an invitation to you, but you have to come prepared. You can't just start ranting and raving. You must be prepared to explain exactly in minute detail, which I haven't found on some of the points, exactly how it works. What are them? And don't tell me it was made that way by God or whatever, right? By some agency which is supernatural. That doesn't help me. If that's the argument, then we have nothing to discuss. Okay?
We would have the same thing if we had any spiritual person from any religion on saying, well, where is God?
Yeah.
So you can't just say everyone thinks they're everywhere. Yeah.
So this doesn't. If the Earth is flat, there must be certain conditions fulfilled. There must be certain mechanics that have to work, and they don't seem to work. Now, but let's look at the flat Earth, and there's some images, some very nice images that are throughout the show notes, and we will get through it today.
And I have to say that Mickey's being very impartial on this, and I still have my reservations, and you may hear that in some of my explanations. However, I'm hard to impress on this subject, and I'd like to be impressed by it. So that's why we looked at this. Yeah. Mickey is saying, well, he wants to honestly, if we can be swayed by the evidence, hey, you know what? I've changed my mind before.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to do it again.
Yep. The evidence must be there, though, okay? And one of and this is toward the end, we'll share some of our final thoughts with you, but let's just get started, guys. Let's just talk about the flat Earth a bit here, and we're gonna.
Right, so we put some things together, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna take. You've got it open.
Oh, I sure do.
Okay, great.
That's why I read the next line.
So we're going to take these paragraphs in turn. I'm going to start.
Understood.
So the flat Earth model is an archaic conception of the Earth's shape as a plane or a disk. Now, we've taken this straight from Wikipedia to give everybody a grounding as to what we're talking about here, okay? And many ancient cultures subscribe to flat Earth cosmography, including Greece until the Classical period, the Bronze Age and Iron Age civilizations of the Near East until the Hellenistic period, India until the Gupta period, which was in the early Common Era, after the birth of Christ, and China until the 17th century.
Absolutely. The paradigm was also typically held in the Aboriginal cultures of the Americas, and the notion of the flat Earth domed by the firmament in the shape of an inverted bowl is common in pre-scientific societies.
Yep. And now the idea of a spherical Earth appeared in Greek philosophy with Pythagoras, which was in the 6th century before the Common Era, or before Christ. Although most pre-Socratics retained the flat Earth model. Aristotle accepted the spherical shape of the Earth on empirical grounds around 330 BC, and knowledge of the spherical Earth gradually began to spread beyond the Hellenistic world from then on, which is the ancient Greek world.
The mistaken notion that medieval Christians thought that the Earth was flat has been referred to as the myth of the flat Earth or flat Earth error.
That's correct. Now, since the 20th century, the consensus among historians of science has been that medieval Europeans, with rare exceptions, put little confidence in the flat Earth model. And that's a bit of a background of the flat Earth for you guys. Okay, so that's theirs. Now, this is important, though. This is very, very important. Now, the Earth is in fact not round. It is not. Okay, the Earth is not round. Let me repeat that to you. It is not round. It's not like a billiard ball. In fact,
that's a perfect sphere.
Yes, it is. Now, I want to quote Isaac Asimov here. Okay, now he used the idea of a flat Earth in his essay, The Relativity of Wrong, to make a point about the progress of scientific knowledge. He pointed out that the notion of a flat Earth is wrong, but the idea of a spherical Earth is also wrong, as the shape of the Earth is better described as an oblate spheroid, meaning the
squashed
poles,
from top and bottom.
Exactly, that's exactly right. More like a mandarin, even, right? So
that's a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah, not as extreme, but close enough, right? Asimov went on to mention how these theories aren't equally wrong, okay, and believing such a thing is wronger than wrong, but they do have a use, right? An architect working on a small building site would have no use for a spherical Earth theory, clearly, and we're going to actually talk about that as well, and would assume the ground is flat, which it is. A designer of novelty globes wouldn't need to compensate for the oblateness of the Earth, but those sending satellites in orbit do. In fact, the distortion is quite a dramatic effect on inclined orbits. And we're going to talk about some of the mechanics and astrophysics as well, because it's important to understand that.
Yeah, okay? and how that works or doesn't work in either theory.
Yeah. So let's be clear: the Earth is not a perfect sphere.
Completely. And I've got so much to add when we get to it. Okay, flat history. Why the confusion?
And there's some pictures here. I just want to quickly illustrate what the pictures are. The flat Earth model, as it is accepted today, has the North Pole at the center of the flat Earth. All around the Earth's ocean, if you will, is the South Pole. So the South Pole is the rim of the disk, and the North Pole is the center of the disk. That is that's the prevailing model of a flat Earth today.
Correct. This picture brought to you by Wikipedia in Photoshop below, and I've got that there. On certain length scales, the Earth certainly is flat. The ground on what we like to call flat land certainly doesn't look like it has any significant curvature in everyday life. In mountainous regions, the local geography is so variable that discerning a curve would be even more difficult. As a result of this, a common sense interpretation of a flat Earth can be reached pretty quickly.
Yep. It does actually make sense if you think about it, guys, right? And that's why it was such a prevailing model. And in fact, if you look at the Earth, it's flat. It's and the curvature is, and this is one of the final points we're going to make. It's so gradual that it's hard to notice. Now, we've included here 3 experiments. I've taken this from a flat Earth site, and these are 3 arguments for the flat Earth. We're gonna share them with you, blow by blow. And these experiments you can do at home, and the claim is that this proves the Earth is flat. The first one is jump. Scientists claim, I'm quoting now, that Earth is spherical and rotating at a speed of between 700 to 1,000 miles per hour, depending on your latitude. This is a very high rate of speed. You can disprove this nonsense by simply jumping up as high as you can. Really, it's that simple. What happens when you jump? You come straight down to where you were. But if the Earth were indeed spinning at such a fast speed, wouldn't you land hundreds of feet away? If you were to stand up in the flat bed of a truck going 75 miles an hour and jump straight up, what would happen? You wouldn't fall straight down. You would fall out of the truck. That's because the truck moves, the Earth doesn't. The experiment proves the Earth is fixed in space and doesn't move. Now, let me say something about that, please. In a flatbed truck, that analogy is pretty good because it's a very small closed system, right? And you jumping up actually makes a big difference. However, if you're traveling on a plane, if you're traveling on a train, any of those where you're at speed,
bus.
yeah, and you're not traveling at the same speed as the train is. Let's say the train goes 100 miles an hour, whatever, right? For argument's sake, you are going 100 miles an hour, and relative to that system, that's actually relativity for you, right? Right there. As far as you're concerned, you don't really feel like you're traveling at all because the momentum has been transferred. You are now traveling with the train. Someone that's observing the train will go, "Oh, you're going real fast." To you, unless you can see the outside, going by, it wouldn't really feel that fast, especially if it's one of the modern trains, where it's a very smooth journey. On a plane as well, you're going extremely fast on a plane, 700-800 kilometers an hour. Yeah, very fast. But you don't have unless you're looking outside. Once again, you don't have a notion of that.
There's
speed.
no sense that you're traveling.
Yeah,
so it's like jumping in your lounge room.
Yeah, exactly. So the acceleration is gradual, and you're brought up. And then you're at speed with that. So if you jump up and down on a plane, you come down in place. I've jumped up in a plane and down. I've stretched my feet. Okay.
I didn't fall out the back of the plane.
Yeah, same. Okay, now, and that's a fact. So the Earth itself is a closed system. You have accelerated with the Earth. Okay, you are moving with the Earth. If the Earth came to an abrupt stop, right, you would fly off it. If the train came to an abrupt stop, you would very much feel the deceleration. Okay,
that's right. That's called sudden onset deceleration sickness.
Yes, it's usually not so good on the train. And this is when you talk about this is basic physics, guys. Okay, now again, if you're a flat earther, please don't come to us with basic physics things that can be disproven by a child. Okay, again, like I said.
So don't do the jumping out of the back of a truck at 75 miles an hour.
Yeah, don't do that.
The only reason you'll fly off the back of the truck is because crouched down behind the cabin, you're not feeling the friction with the air rushing past you at equivalent of 75 miles an hour.
Yep.
Jumping into the air, you will suddenly become in contact with 75-mile-an-hour air rushing past, which will push you off the back of the truck.
Yeah. In fact, don't do the jumping at all. Take a ball, a small ball, and go on a plane, go on a train, and throw it up. Does it land in your hand?
Yep.
I think it might.
I think it does.
So, okay, so this is the first one. Dave, can you...
Please let me do this.
Yes.
Okay. Blow. The first one was jump. The second one's blow. Since if the Earth is supposedly a sphere, it naturally comes to assume what would happen to people below the equator, like in Australia where we live, Mackie. Did you know something's going to happen here?
I'm going to fall down.
Oh, since they are underneath the sphere, wouldn't they fall off? This is where scientists come up with mumbo jumbo like gravity and centrifugal force to explain away their theories. So the scientist wants you to think that because the Earth is so much more massive than people or things, that people will naturally stick to the bottom of that Earth because of gravity. This can be disproved very simply. Get a balloon and inflate it as big as possible. It will be a spherical shape. Only a shape, by the way. Now, take a piece of paper and try to rip, tear, or cut the tiniest piece of speck possible. This paper represents a human being. Actually, it would be grossly sized. Being much smaller in mass to the balloon, which represents the Earth. Now try to place the small piece of paper to the underside of the balloon. What happens? It falls off. I want to get to that point in a minute too. That's right. Even though the balloon is so much bigger in mass, it cannot hold the tiny paper. So if the Earth was a sphere, no one could live below the equator because they would fall off. Now, there's a few points here.
Yeah.
Number one, it doesn't matter whereabouts you are on the Earth, gravity will pull you towards the Earth. Gravity is mass.
There's no gravity, sir. It's mumbo jumbo.
It's the attraction of mass. Two masses will attract each other, whether they're single atoms or anything else bigger. In fact, if you had a plumb bob and you stood on the highest peaks on the planet, and it was perfectly straight, I have to say, as physics experiment, perfectly straight, the string would go straight down. However, the gravity of the mountain you're on pulls it towards the mountain and it curves towards it. There is a gravity, which is a mass attraction. Anyway, a small piece of paper underside the balloon. You know what? They made the mistaken belief here that it would fall off. It wouldn't. There's a static cling that piece of paper would get from the balloon. And they'd be attracted to each other. It would actually stick to. I'm not saying that we're attracted by static to the Earth, but the paper would. Sadly, sorry, it doesn't always fall off. So, Meki, what do you have to add to the number 2 point?
Yeah, look, we have been exposed, all of us, to centrifugal forces at the carnival, at the fair.
Mhm.
You've all taken rides, I'm sure, right? In you know, the spinning things that you're in. You can feel the force. You know, there's actually this one ride which is a big disc, and you're thrown out from it as the spin increases.
And a floor drops away from you.
Correct. Now, and we know that when in free fall, gravity disappears. You know, when you're when you go into a tailspin, for example, right? Because and these are forces working against each other. Now, gravity is a weak force. Absolutely, it's a lot weaker than, for example, magnetism and so forth. And it's in fact so weak that it's still a mystery as to why it is so weak. But gravity is nonetheless there. And this is again, the Earth is a closed system, guys, right? And the up and down that we have as far as the Earth is concerned is completely arbitrary. In the universe, there is no up or down. Up or down is only relative to where you are. Okay, let me be very clear. Up and down is only relative to where you are. If you are in space, okay, and this is not talking NASA talking. This is when you're away from any gravitational pulls. There is no up or down.
They're
no
correct.
Up or
There
down.
isn't. Yes.
Right?
It's
Doesn't
like
exist.
being underwater.
In a way, yes. In a way, yes. Except even gravity is even lessened there. You know, it's the same kind of feeling, though, right? But gravity is still clearly. But the other thing is that gravity is mass times spin. So there's no gravity unless there's motion. So if the Earth was at rest, right? The Earth is actually in space at rest. There's nothing happening. We would all fly off it. We would. Okay, because it has to be in motion. So this is once again one of the basic fundamentals of this universe is toroidal motion. Toroidal motion pretty much governs everything. Okay, everything has to be in motion, and everything has to have mass in order for gravity to exist. And you know, again, another thing is.
I have another point too.
Yeah, on gravity, one more thing is tides. The gravitational forces the moon exerts on the Earth cause the tides. Now, there are other explanations that flat earthers give, but again, it's not convincing. Please give me an explanation that convinces you more. But what's your other point, sir?
Well, I have a point. In the flat Earth, what's going to hold all the water and the people to the Earth? Once again, gravity.
No, I can tell you what they say it is. Do you know what it is? We are at constant acceleration. We're constantly accelerating upwards.
Upwards, right?
Right, in a straight line. Now, there's before we get into the massive problems with the flat Earth theory, let's talk about the next one. Get high.
Yes, please. Let's talk
This
about
is
that.
the next experiment you can do at home. And by the way, a balloon does not have sufficient mass, and it's not in motion itself. If you spin the balloon up, you will see. Anyway, this is another
That's right.
experiment altogether. Okay, so this one you really can't do at home, but you can do it out in the world. This is get high. Stand on the ground and look around you. What's the farthest you can see? Maybe it's a building, a tree, or a mountain. Now find some place very close to it where you can get a much higher vantage point. This also works if you're on a jet and about to take off. Notice how in the higher place you can see how much you can see much farther, right? You can see more of the world the higher you get. Yes, that's true. This shows that the world is flat because the higher you go, the easier it is to see over obstacles. Now, hang on. Before we go any further, I want to just this statement. This shows the world is flat because the higher you go, the easier. That is not a proof.
That's not proof, no.
It's not proof. There's no logical connection here. You go higher, but the consequence of you going high and seeing more is not that the Earth is flat. It's just you see more. At the same time, it shows the world cannot be spherical. And
How?
I don't see how it shows that either, right?
Agreed.
Because if the world was curved, the far distance would forever remain out of view because of the Earth's curvature.
Well, it is.
It would eternally be over the horizon.
It is.
It is, but it is. The thing is this: you can. I don't care how good your binoculars are. The effective visual range for you is about 100 kilometers on a clear day. That's the furthest you can see. If you're sitting on the top of Mount Everest, okay, that's as far as you will see. Now, what they're saying is, if the Earth was a sphere, it wouldn't matter how high you went, you would still see the same thing. Since this is not the case, the Earth is flat. And the problem here is scale, guys. It's a simple thing of we think in human terms. Everything we do is anthropomorphic, okay? And that's a big problem because the Earth is not on human scale. The Earth is huge.
It's
massive.
It's massive is the only word.
Okay.
Mickey,
Yep.
one part of this as well is if you're on the ocean,
Yep.
say sitting on a surfboard,
Yep.
punching sharks, because that's what we do in Australia, apparently. All right. That's what we do. And as far as you can see is 2.9 miles. If you're in your conning tower of a ship, you can see further.
Mm-hmm.
You can see further. If you're 100 feet or 30 meters in height, you can see another 10 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So on the surface of the ocean, you can only see 2.9 miles. But if you're 100 feet up from there, like your conning tower of a ship, then you can see 12 miles.
Yeah.
So I've been on a ship, and I know all the people in the Navy who go on ships and who have fought in battles have to, they can see further, and depending on how tall their ship is, they can be visible for further away that they can see their targets.
Yes. Now, let me just stay on the ocean surface for a second. People say wherever you go on the ocean, if it's a calm ocean, it measures as exactly flat. That is correct. Water will always find its own level. Doesn't matter what you pour water into, it'll find its own level and it'll smooth out, and the surface, because of the water surface tension, will appear flat. It once again is a matter of scale. The curvature of the Earth is too slight, too gradual, to be noticed in short distances. If we were 1,000 times bigger than we are, we would see it. We could. As it is, we cannot. And any stretch of water that we come across is flat. If it's a calm sea, it will be flat. Okay? But the the graduation of the curve is so slight that it will always be flat no matter where you go.
Did you know there's a bridge, Mecca, that's more than 2.9 miles? And do you know what they had to do when they built it?
Tell me.
Take into consideration the curvature of the Earth.
What a shock.
Yeah, because when you shot a laser across it, across the distance of it, it actually curved downwards away down the horizon.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it is gradual, guys, okay? But the longer or the greater the distance we talk about, the more obvious the effect becomes, okay? Now, these are now specific points we're going to talk about. I'm going to take the first one, and then we're going to take it in turn, right?
Sure.
And we're going to talk. We each going to comment on both. On all of those. So, and this is the flat earthers yet again talking about things, how they would work on a flat Earth, and how do you explain day and night cycles and seasons? This is my favorite. And there are animations around that as well. Day and night cycles are easily explained on a flat Earth. The sun moves in circles around the North Pole. When it is over your head, it's day. When it's not, it's night. The sun acts like a spotlight and shines downward as it moves. The picture below illustrates how the sun moves and also how seasons work on a flat Earth. The apparent effect of the sun rising and setting is usually explained as a perspective effect. Now, there are a whole bunch of graphics here, which we share in the show notes. And apparently now this is the seasons. When the sun is further away from the North Pole, it's winter in the northern hemisphere, or hemiplane, and summer in the south. And the more simplistic picture is here. So the picture is this. It's the picture of a flat Earth, and the sun has got an orbit which is sort of closely going around the North Pole, and then a couple other orbits which are further away from the North Pole, closer to the South Pole, which is in fact the ice wall surrounding the disk world. Now, there are several issues with that here, which I want to share with you. Number one, day and night cycles, okay? If we have a spotlight sun, it shines down onto the Earth, okay? Think about it this way. There is no light refraction accounted for. If the Earth is flat, okay, and light is bounced off the clouds and of water, we should be living in a perpetual twilight when it's night.
Mm-hmm.
There should be no true night. There should be no darkness, because light actually diffracts and diffuses. It spreads. It's what it does. It won't be like true day, but it will not be true night either. Okay. Firstly, secondly, the seasons. Okay, so magically somehow the spotlight sun and its dark companion, because they're also talking about a dark companion, which I'll talk about later, change orbits in order to give us seasons. Now, first of all, I want to know what's the mechanics behind the orbital change of the spotlight sun, which is significant. So how does that work? What are the mechanics of that? And how is it then that there are no true seasons at the equator? In the illustration that's given here, it clearly shows the orbits vary greatly and do so to such an extent that seasons should prevail at equatorial latitudes, but they do not. The equatorial climate only makes sense in the tilted spherical model, which we'll talk about, in a second. There should be seasons at the equator in a flat Earth, but they're not. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't there seasons? Why is it always the same temperature? I've been to the equator many
It's hot.
times. It's hot, always. Singapore, always 30 degrees, roughly. I mean, they've got rainy season, sure enough, but there's no winter, there's no summer, there's no spring, there's no fall. Okay, so if someone can explain to me in scientific or layman's terms, I don't care how the celestial mechanics work on a flat Earth, why the sun changes orbit to allow for northern and southern winters. Okay, I would like to know about that. And I would also like to understand why there's no refraction of the light during the night, and I would like to understand why there's no season at the equator. So these are the three things. If you can answer that, come on the show.
Because also the sun would be so close to the Earth, it's crazy.
3,000 miles. They say it's 3,000 miles away, and it's the same size as the moon.
Isn't it? So yeah, I have a real hard time with that, because where's the dark twin, or whatever it's called?
Yep.
And how can the moon and the sun both have be rotating around this dark twin?
Yep.
And they both, while the moon doesn't change its orbital cycle, the sun happens to.
Yep.
So, and if they're the same size, they'd have the same orbital paths. You'd imagine they would have caught up and collided with each other. It doesn't make sense also that there's no eclipse. It doesn't make sense. So yeah, if someone can model it in 3D model of it actually working, come on a show us.
Please. Now, Dave, you
talk about magnetic fields?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. The question is, how is there a magnetic field? Magnets can't be unipolar. I love that. While it's true that unipolar magnets can't exist, this isn't a problem for the flat Earth. This is because ring magnets, which are shaped like, you guessed it, a flat disk, are capable of having a radial magnetization. In a radial magnet, the magnet pole is at the center and the other is at all points on the outer edge of the magnet. A magnet like this can be found in loudspeakers and perfectly replicates what is found on the Earth. Meki?
Now, This is what I thought about this. So what is being said here is that the flat Earth consists of of a massive nickel iron or cobalt donut, because these are the only metals that actually magnetize, right? That was somehow at some point magnetized, because the prevailing model right now, it's that liquid metal is rubbing against each other in the Earth to create the magnetic poles. I mean, Edmund Halley thought that there were metal spheres inside the Earth, but whatever the mechanism is, there's a magnetic pole. So what we're saying here in the flat Earth, though, it is a massive donut of magnetized metal that somehow at some point was magnetized, because there's no motion in it, there's no movement. It had to be magnetized, right? Now, radial magnets like that do not exist in nature. Show me one, right? We make them. Yeah, the magnet in the loudspeaker is made by people.
That's
We
right.
need to build them, okay? Unless, of course, one has a monopole, and the flat earthers just said you can't have a monopole. Well, you can, but if you did, you'd have a Nobel Prize too. Okay, so
That's right.
explain to me how the radial magnet was magnetized in the first place, okay, and show me where all that massive amount of iron is. Okay, that must clearly be the Earth must, or the rim at least, must be made of magnetized metal completely, right? For this to work.
Now, I have to also suggest that a magnet is not gravity.
That's correct. It's an
Magnet
opposing force.
energy
Yes.
is not gravity.
Yep.
Magnets are attracted to magnets and metal.
Mhm.
So are we saying the sun is another magnet, or the sun is metal?
Mhm.
Which is it?
Yes.
That means the moon is also metal or a magnet.
Yep.
Because if the Earth's governed by magnetism then and not gravity, then all the other objects must also be magnetism and not gravity. That's another thing that plays on my ethics here. I'm having trouble with this, Meki, so far.
Yeah. Look, so do I. Now let's come back to the spotlight sun for a second.
Yeah,
okay?
please.
Look, guys. If you can put the question that you have there into an email or something, you're saying, did you know the FAA says it's flat and non-rotating for all plane flights, maths? Can you explain what you mean by that? I'm not clear. I mean, Dave, maybe you are, right?
I do understand what that means for non-rotating for all plane flight maths.
Mhm.
It's because where the Earth and the wind on the Earth, I know that when we follow the Earth doesn't rotate beneath the plane because it took off at the same rotational speed as the Earth. So it's basically determined as a static Earth, and it makes total sense if you fly. Meki and I gave the example of being on a train and throwing a ball up in the air. If you throw it to your friend, the maths in the train, by the way, if you throw the ball to your friend in the train, the ball's already going the speed of the train. And when you throw it, I can calculate with Newtonian physics, this is simple Newtonian physics, when and where that's going to go, depending on the trajectory.
Yeah.
Okay? So there. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be rude. Zippy 3831.
Sorry, are you saying that because the math to work out flight times and schedules is such that we have to use a flat Earth model? Well, that's not entirely true. Okay, there are just certain assumptions to make. Such as the flight direction. The relative wind speeds, the altitude that you fly.
All of those are relative.
Yes.
Sorry, all of those are very important. I don't mean to understate it. Very, very important in calculating the flight maths. Yes.
Yes.
So is the weight of the plane and the passengers, etc., and the fuel loads. However, the requirement to include a rotating Earth is not necessary. It has zero impact on the maths.
Yeah. And the reason for that is, once again, because you're already part of the closed system.
Correct.
You're already part of the Earth's acceleration.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like you accelerate with the train from birth. Okay, you've been part of the Earth system. So is everything else that's on the Earth. Okay. Anyway, if I'm wrong, explain to me why I'm wrong. The spotlight sun. Again, let's go quickly back to that again. Now, they say that the sun is about 3,000 miles above the Earth. That's what the flat earthers are saying, eh? Mm-hmm. And moving horizontally parallel to the Earth's surface, never moving away from the Earth, always at the same distance. That's why it has to change orbit for winter to occur. It never moves further away, okay? Now, that's clearly not possible. Why? not only would the sun never rise or set, and they're saying, oh, it's just a matter of perspective. Not really. I've seen the sun rise set many a time when I stayed out way too late. Okay? It would merely appear lower in the sky, right? But it would never disappear. It shouldn't. But it would also shrink as it moved away. The
True.
sun would shrink.
Absolutely. Good point, Mickey.
Have any of you ever seen the sun shrink in the sky as it supposedly moves away? If yes, please give me video evidence. Please. Okay? Now, so what happened to the scatter effect of light? We just said that, right? We should not be experiencing dark night, but twilight. I've said this, okay? What else did I say? So either the sun is a spotlight or it is not, okay? If it does change from light to dark in a non-scattering light universe, it must be abrupt and immediate. There should be no graduation. So if the spotlight moves around, there should be no dusk or dawn. Yeah? As the sun moves around, because it's not scattering. That's what you just said to me. That's why we have no twilight when it should be night. Okay?
That would just be on or off.
Yeah, it's on or off. It moves along, off. It moves along, on. On, off, on, off. There is no graduation. It cannot exist. Because you can't have it both ways. Either light scatters or it does not.
That's right. And we've seen it does. And there is twilight. Yeah. That's tough. I can't get over that one either, Mickey. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of hurdles. I'm just running into each of them. Yep. The lunar eclipse, and as I just mentioned this earlier before, a solar eclipse occurs when the moon passes in front of the sun. A lunar eclipse occurs about twice a year when a satellite of the sun passes between the sun and the moon. This satellite is called the shadow object. Its orbital plane is tilted at an angle of about 5 degrees 10 minutes to the sun's orbital plane, making eclipses possible only when the three bodies, the sun, the object, and the moon, are aligned, and when the moon is crossing the sun's orbital plane at a point called the node. So there's a lesson in this for everyone too. Within a given year, considering the orbitals of these celestial bodies, a maximum of 3 lunar eclipses can occur. Despite the fact that there are more solar than lunar eclipses each year, over time, many more lunar eclipses are seen at any single location on the Earth than solar eclipses. These occurs because a lunar eclipse can be seen from the entire half of the Earth beneath the moon at that time, while a solar eclipse is visible only along a narrow path, as we've all been disappointed when we heard there's an eclipse, on that part of the Earth's surface, because the eclipse never occurred in your town. The total lunar eclipses come in clusters. There can be 2 or 3 during a period of a year or a year and a half, followed by a lull of 2 or 3 years before another round begins. When you add partial eclipses, there can be 3 in a calendar year, and again, it's possible to have none at all. The shadow object is never seen because it orbits close to the sun. As the sun's powerful vertical rays hit the atmosphere during the day, they will scatter and blot out nearly every single star and celestial body in the sky. We are never given a glimpse of the celestial bodies which appear near the sun during the day. They are completely washed out by the sun's light. This is estimated that the shadow object is around 5 to 10 miles in diameter. Since it is somewhat close to the sun, the manifestation of its penumbra upon the moon appears as a magnified projection. This is similar to how during a shadow puppet show, your hand shadow can make a large magnified projection upon your bedroom wall as you move it closer to the flashlight.
Well, right there is where it falls apart. I'm sorry. But I don't know if you've tried this for yourselves. This only works if the light source is significantly smaller than the object illuminates, or very far away from it. Try it for yourselves at home. So if the sun here is much larger than the dark companion, the shadow object, this will not work at all. It simply does not work. Okay?
But hang on, Mickey. With a sun filter, I can see, Venus crossing and Mercury crossing.
Well,
So why can't I see the dark companion?
We'll actually come to the whole solar system problem in a second.
Right.
And there's there's that, because it is only so tiny. It's 5 miles in diameter.
Uh-huh.
It's like literally it's tiny, right? So it's throwing up a bigger shadow, which we then call the moon, is a complete nonsense yet again. I'm sorry. Right? Explain to me the mechanics, not like this, but properly. And I'm sorry, Zippy 3831. The Earth is okay. Maybe one more time. I'll give it one more go to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
The Earth is a closed system. Okay, like a train. Think of a train. Okay, in a train, if you throw a ball up in the air, it lands in your hand. You throw it to your body, it goes there as well. You don't have to at all account for the train's motion at all, because you are moving with the train.
Mm-hmm.
A plane on the Earth taking off is moving with the Earth already. Okay, we're not leaving the Earth's gravitational pull. Okay, people will now say, "Oh, gravity is a figment of everybody's imagination." See, if you say that, okay, if you say that, then we really have no common basis to talk about, because gravity is the one thing that the flat earthers can't stand. Okay, because it completely blows apart the flat Earth model. Okay, their explanation for heaviness, or what we feel as heaviness, is constant upward acceleration of the flat Earth.
At 9.8 meters per second, no doubt.
Right. Exactly, it is in fact.
Mm-hmm.
And so the plane is part of the system. You don't have to allow for the Earth's rotation, because the plane is part of that closed system that we're all part of. If you're jumping up, you're already part of that momentum that the Earth is carrying anyway. You're not landing 100 meters down the way. The plane works in the same way, except on a larger scale.
Mm-hmm.
This is as best as I can put it. If you don't understand that, then I'm sorry, I can't explain any clearer. And it's my failing then not to have to explain clearly. Okay?
Very zen of you, Mackie.
It's true. Horizon. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
There's a horizon, meaning that the surface that one is observing from one is not an infinite plane. On the clearest of days, the only restriction to one's range of sight is the horizon. There can be two explanations for this. One, that the Earth at some point just stops, as if you're looking, off the edge of a table. Mm-hmm. The other is that the Earth is round. Hundreds of years ago, before the invention of the compass or sextant, precise navigation for ships was difficult. Even with the stars, it was hard to navigate. Ships that ventured past sight of land were often lost, and thus it was generally believed that the world simply stopped at the end of the horizon. However, guys, we are now moving beyond the horizon. Okay, I don't know if you've ever sufficiently, like if you've flown, okay, and then you see the landscape underneath you change, and you don't see that very same landscape. So I fly to Asia, for example, from Australia, so from Sydney to Singapore, right? The landscape changes a lot, and as I look out my window, right, into the distance, I can't see the landscape that goes on and on. There's actually a cutoff line, and that's called the horizon. But at the end of it, there is no end. It goes on. So I'm going beyond the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
Are you with me? If the Earth was flat, the horizon should be where the Earth stops, especially when I'm as high as a plane.
And in fact, Mackie, you'd be able to see a lot more of it further, and it would just keep going on.
Yes.
In fact, in the case of that cut spheroid donut shape, if I was sitting in my house in South America, I'd be able to see North America.
Yes.
Because it would curve upwards, and there's North America, and I'm in South America. That doesn't make any sense, because I'd be able to see from here, Mackie, Europe.
Yes.
Correct. I can't see Europe.
If you had really good eyes, you should be able to see Europe.
Well, even with I bought a telescope, I can't see it.
Yeah, and I've got a telescope, and I can't see that. I don't care how high you get.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't care how high you go. There will always be a horizon. It's not imaginary. The horizon is real.
Mm-hmm.
Prove to me it's not.
Nicely put.
And yeah, sorry. Seasons, sir. Seasons.
This will be the last topic, because we're at 5:51.
Oh, you're right. We have to finish it next week.
We do. Look, seasons. We have seasons because the Earth's axis is tilted. Consider any globe you've ever used, and you'll see that instead of being straight up and down, the Earth is at a tilt of 23.5 degrees. The Earth's north pole is actually pointed towards Polaris, the northern star, and the south pole points towards the constellation of Octans. At any point during its orbit, the Earth is always pointed at the same direction. For 6 months of the year, the northern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun, while the southern hemisphere is tilted away. For the next 6 months, the situation is reversed. Whichever hemisphere is tilted towards the sun experiences more energy. It warms up. That's summer, by the way, while its hemisphere tilted away receives less energy and cools down. Consider the amount of solar radiation falling on a part of the Earth. When the sun is directly overhead, each square meter of Earth receives about 1,000 watts of energy. However, but when the sun is at a severe angle, like the Arctic Circle, the same 1,000 watts of energy is spread out over a much larger area.
Measurably so.
Absolutely.
So.
And we did this in physics. This tilt also explains why the days are longer in the summer and shorter in the winter. The longest day of summer, when the northern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun, is known as the summer solstice. And when it is tilted away from the sun, that's the winter solstice. When both hemispheres receive equal amount of energy, it's called the equinox. We have a spring equinox and then an autumn equinox, when our days and nights are equal in length. So how does this distance from the sun affect us? The distance between the Earth and the sun has an effect on the intensity of the seasons. The southern hemisphere's summer happens when the Earth's is closest to the sun, and their winter, our winter, Mecky, is when the Earth is furthest. This makes their seasons even more severe, don't we know it? Mm-hmm. You might be interested to know that the orientation of the Earth's axis is actually changing. Over the course of 26,000 year cycle, the Earth's axis traces out a great circle in the sky. This is known as the precession of the equinoxes. At the halfway point, 13,000 years, the seasons are reversed for the two hemispheres, and then they return to the original starting point 13,000 years later. You may not know that, but the time that the summer solstice comes you might not notice, there we go, but the time of the summer solstice comes earlier by about 20 minutes every year, a full day every 70 years. I did not know that.
Yeah. So that's right. So guys, so this is the explanation for seasons that the spherical model has. That makes a lot of sense to me, right? I still need to understand how the spotlight sun magically changes orbits 3 times throughout the year. If someone can explain that to me, that'd be great. Okay, and if anybody else can explain the other stuff as well. Now, I don't want the moon is tiny in that launch vid and the sun is close to the camera. The sun and the moon, yes, we've spoken about the sun and moon mystery before. The sun and moon appear to be the same size, right? And that's in fact, like for us, that's exactly true. The sun is just 400 times further away than the moon. And there's another question in the chat around. Well, if the sun can pull the Earth into orbit, then it should also be able to pull the moon in orbit. Yes, but again, we're talking about relative distances here. The relative distances and the relative influence on bodies. Okay, so the moon is sufficiently close to the Earth, even though it's actually a very strange relationship we have with the moon, and we've spoken about that. For the sun to be not pulling in the moon in a separate orbit. Okay, all the planets have their own moons. So in fact, you have a representation of the solar system in each planetoid and each planet that has moons orbiting it. Okay, that's what happens in the real universe. Okay, like I said, and then we don't have much time. We have
about a minute left.
Yeah, we'll discuss the rest. So either, like I said, the flat Earth is the greatest conspiracy ever, or it is wrong. There's no middle ground here. Okay, there's no middle ground. Either it is the greatest conspiracy or it's wrong. And we've just given you some information here that doesn't make sense to us, okay? If you can, and the thing is, only one of these has to stand up. In my mind, they all stand up, right? The whole flat Earth theory falls apart. Okay, it just doesn't work. Explain to me how it holds water. I really don't get it. I just don't understand it.
Do you know what? Maybe it's like watching a bad Hollywood movie. It's like a train wreck. You just have to be part of it. You got to watch it through to the end. Maybe you got to find out what happens.
Yeah.
And there's the music, and we'll catch you next week for show 181. Sorry, two. This is 181. Next week, 182.
Yeah. Please, and donate, guys, if you have the money, please.
Oh, please, and don't forget, do it right now. Do it now. I want to see you do it now. Take care, everyone. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to Revolution